So just recently, to the shock of nearly everyone except Phoenix Suns fans, the Los Angeles Lakers were just knocked out of the playoffs by the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the playoffs. And I would be lying if this wasn't a disappointing outcome, but simply there are some factors like the fact that Anthony Davis was injured the last 2.5 games of the series, but nonetheless, the Lakers are out, and since this is a roster that was expected to be championship contenders, losing in the first round of the playoffs definitely is going to lead to some huge changes this offseason. So in today's video, I'll be naming 4 things that I believe the Los Angeles Lakers need to do in this year's 2021 free agency, as well as just their offseason in general. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content and helps my goal of 1,500 subscribers, and comment on this video so start a conversation with me as I do respond to all comments, and play that intro. The first thing I think the Los Angeles Lakers need to do is look into getting a third star on this team. Because at the NBA trade deadline, they did have the opportunity to get a second star in Kyle Lowry, but they were unwilling to give up Taylor Horton-Tucker. And at the time, I thought that they should have made the move, and it ended up coming back to bite them in the you-know-what. Because they probably wouldn't have lost in the first round if they had Lowry. But nonetheless, this offseason, I think their main priority should be trying to get a third star with these guys. And the player who's been rumored a lot as of late, as like the player to maybe go to the Lakers, is Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers, since the Blazers just got eliminated the first round of the playoffs with, in my opinion, their best roster of the last 4 years, and still they would lost to a Denver Nuggets team without their second best player in Jamal Murray. So it's clear that Portland's gonna make some huge adjustments, and one of those adjustments might just be blowing it up. But just recently, Lillard has said that he wanted the Blazers to pick Jason Kidd as their coach, and that makes it seem like he's not gonna request a trade. Obviously that can change later in the offseason, but as of right now, it doesn't seem crazy realistic. I don't even know how they would trade for a guy of Damian Lillard's stature when there's many other teams that could offer way more. Maybe if they did a sign and trade with Dennis Schroeder and then added Taylor Horton-Tucker, Montrezl Harrell, and Kyle Kuzma along with multiple first round picks, the Blazers will consider it, but I don't know. But Kyle Lowry is going to be a free agent this offseason, so maybe the Lakers just could straight up sign him as a free agent, or maybe they could do a sign and trade for him. That's a good option as well. DeMar DeRozan's a free agent, and although the fit with him might be a bit rough, he's still a guy who can go out and create his own shot and create plays for others, and that's something the Lakers really needed, because of outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis and sometimes Dennis Schroeder, no one else could consistently create their own shot. Bro, it was just terrible. Also, getting a third star would take some pressure off LeBron, since we all know he's a great and amazing and all of that, but he is getting older and he can't be as good as he was before. So getting a third star would take some pressure off him. And I think this is the most important thing the Lakers need, and I actually believe they will get it done since they are the Lakers. They might also should look into CJ McCollum of the Portland Trail Blazers, or maybe Malcolm Brogdon of the Indiana Pacers. He's a pretty good fit, but nonetheless, they have to do this. The second thing this Los Angeles Lakers team needs to do is get a three-point sniper. And you might be thinking this Laker team actually needs multiple shooters, since their shooting in the playoffs was absolutely dreadful and inconsistent. And you actually might be right, but that is kind of hard to change since the whole team is literally filled with a bunch of inconsistent shooters. So they will just have to trade the whole team at that point. But that's definitely a possibility because a lot of their team is free agents. But in my opinion, I think they just need to sign a guy who's an amazing shooter, one of the best shooters in the league. Because since LeBron's come to the Lakers, he hasn't even played with a shooter that's like a great shooter. Because his best shooter has been Davis Caldwell Pope, who's a really good shooter, but he's definitely not an elite one, and he's far from consistent. And this offseason, there are some pretty good shooters and elite ones. Guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., who's very underrated, and he's underratedly one of the best shooters in the whole league, as he can get on fire and hit some difficult three-pointers. They also have Bryn Forbes, who's available. I don't think he would be too much money. JJ Redick is available, although he's kind of old and a defensive liability, so I don't know how much he would play. But I also have Doug McDermott, who's available, and he's one of the best catch and shoot three-pointer players in the league, and he can also hit difficult ones and get on fire. So there's definitely some three-point shooters that the Lakers could get. Don't let me forget Tony Snell, who led the league in three-point percent. But yeah, in general, every year there's some three-point snipers. I think the Lakers need to get their hands on at least one or two of them. It would drastically help this team and just help LeBron, because LeBron could set those guys up for some easy shots and just make this whole team way better. The third thing that I think the Los Angeles Lakers should do is fire Frank Vogel. And this is something that I'm more so on, because Vogel is a pretty solid coach. He did coach them to the championship last season, and if they keep him, I don't think it's too much of a problem. I don't necessarily think they should do it in the offseason, but to start the year, if they start off slow and he's just not doing a good job, maybe they should keep their options open and look to get a new coach. Because in that first round series and matchup versus the Suns, Vogel had many questionable moves. For example, his rotations were off in certain moments, and it seemed like when it seemed like they could use some energy, they didn't even play Montrezl Harrell, who's one of the more energetic players in the whole league. And there was a lot of times where he played Andre Drummond too long on the court, and he kept getting burned on the offensive side of the floor for the Phoenix Suns. And things like that just accumulated and caused them to lose the series. Not saying it's Vogel's fault necessarily, it was injury's fault, but he definitely wasn't his best coaching in that series. Also, during that series, it didn't seem like the Lakers ran much plays or off-ball stuff when they needed to, and in certain situations when he should have called a timeout, he didn't. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, and I'm not saying they have to fire him, but I think it's something they should consider, especially since it's the Lakers and everything needs to kind of be perfect for them. The fourth thing the Los Angeles Lakers should do this offseason is get rid of Kyle Kuzma. This is a little bit of a joke, but I just want to take in how bad this guy has been. He went from looking like a future all-star at worst a solid starter, averaging 18 points and stuff, and now he's looking like a bench scrub who shouldn't even be getting play time. And in this year's regular season, he had some decent moments. He played pretty okay, but in the playoffs, he was just dreadful. And he's just a very stupid player, and I already can't stand him. And I just think they need to get rid of him and get him off the court. Obviously, they don't have to get him off, but he just stinks, and I would rather not see him on this team, bro. He's just trash and dumb. Also, I don't even know why Vogel was playing him really in this series. He wasn't giving you anything on offense, and although he's a solid defender now, he's just pure trash, bro. But to conclude the video, the Lakers' end to the season was very disappointing. The only reason they lost was because of injuries, but the Phoenix Suns definitely deserve a lot of credit because people were even thinking they could lose it in 5 games, and even when the Lakers got injured, lots of people thought the Lakers could still win. But the Lakers are healthy and they keep a similar squad. I still think they could win the championship, but I think they can make some moves that could make them even better. And why not make moves, especially coming off a disappointing loss? I do think the Lakers will make moves because this is literally the biggest franchise in the whole NBA, maybe outside the New York Knicks, and they have literally LeBron James on their team, so they won't just stay stagnant. And I think it will be a very entertaining and interesting offseason for the Lakers, because I think it will either be a fantastic offseason and everyone talks about how the Lakers are the winner of the offseason and all things like that, or it could be a pretty bad offseason where people are questioning how good the Lakers will be next year and all that. But nonetheless, it will be interesting to see. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think the Lakers should do next offseason. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content. And to help my goal of 1,500 subscribers, comment on this video, start a conversation. As I actually do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.